The massive chamber on Nexus Prime stretched out like a great bowl carved from black stone. Thousands of seats rose in perfect circles around the central speaking platform where beings from across the galaxy gathered to decide the fate of worlds. The air hummed with translation devices, working to convert hundreds of different languages into something each species could understand. Ambassador Zethkar stood at the center platform, his green scales catching the harsh lights above. The reptilian being was nearly 8 feet tall with eyes like burning coals and claws that scraped against the speaking podium as he gripped it. His voice carried clearly through the chamber as he began his presentation to the Galactic Council. "Honorable delegates," Zethkar began, his words dripping with contempt. "We have discovered a new threat to our civilized galaxy. A primitive world called Earth has somehow stumbled upon faster-than-light travel technology. These creatures call themselves humans, and they represent everything we have worked to eliminate from civilized space." Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Some species shifted nervously in their seats while others leaned forward with interest. The hegemony had not called for such a gathering in over 50 standard years. Zethkar activated a holographic display that showed images of Earth and its inhabitants. The blue and green world spun slowly above the platform, while scenes of human cities, vehicles, and people flickered around it. "Look at this world," Zethkar continued, pointing at the images with one clawed finger. "They still fight wars among their own kind. They pollute their planet with industrial waste. They have not achieved unity as a species, yet they dare to venture into space. This is exactly the kind of chaos we have spent millennia removing from the galaxy." Captain Jake Morrison sat in the observation gallery reserved for first contact representatives. He was one of only 3 humans present in the massive chamber, and the weight of representing his entire species pressed down on him like a physical force. His brown hair was still regulation short from his military service, and his blue eyes watched every movement Zethkar made with careful attention. Next to him sat Lisa Hayes, the communications officer from his ship Liberty. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and she held a small recording device that captured every word of the proceedings. On his other side, Pete Collins nervously adjusted his glasses while taking notes on a handheld tablet. The engineer had been quiet since their arrival at the station 3 days ago. "We have records of their recent arrival," Zethkar said, as new images appeared in the hologram. "Their ship design is crude and inefficient. Their technology is barely adequate for interstellar travel. Most importantly, their first response upon meeting our patrol ships was to demand equal treatment in galactic affairs. Equal treatment for a species that has existed in space for less than one of their solar years." Laughter echoed from several sections of the chamber. The sound was not pleasant, as it came from species with very different vocal cords than humans. Some sounded like grinding metal, while others resembled the screech of tearing fabric. Jake clenched his fists, but kept his face neutral. He remembered that first contact with the hegemony patrol ships near the outer edge of their solar system. The alien vessels had surrounded Liberty and demanded they surrender all weapons and submit to inspection. When Jake had politely explained that humans would prefer to negotiate as equals, the alien commander had become furious. "Their arrogance knows no bounds," Zethkar continued. "They believe that simply achieving spaceflight grants them the right to participate in decisions that affect ancient civilizations. They show no respect for established order or proper hierarchy. Left unchecked, this attitude will spread to other primitive worlds and undermine the stability we have built." The hegemony ambassador paused and looked around the chamber. Many delegates were nodding in agreement. The Krell swarm representatives made clicking sounds that Jake had learned meant approval. The crystalline Vorthan delegates glowed brighter, which was their version of applause. "Therefore," Zethkar announced, "the hegemony formally requests Council authorization for a preemptive military action against Earth. We propose a swift campaign to remove this threat before it can contaminate other developing worlds with dangerous ideas about equality and independence. The chamber erupted in discussion. Hundreds of different voices mixed together in a cacophony of alien languages. Jake felt his stomach drop as he realized what was happening. They were discussing whether to invade Earth, not to conquer it, but to destroy human civilization entirely. Lisa grabbed his arm and whispered, "Jake, we have to warn Earth somehow. If they vote for this invasion, our people will never see it coming." Before Jake could respond, a new voice cut through the noise like a blade through silk. The chamber fell silent as every being present turned toward the source. In the highest ring of seats sat a figure that seemed to shimmer and shift like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The ethereal delegate Vortham rarely spoke during council sessions, and when he did, the entire galaxy listened. "Ambassador Zethkar makes passionate arguments," Vortham said, his voice somehow reaching every corner of the chamber without seeming loud. "But perhaps passion clouds judgment in this matter." Zethkar's eyes flashed with anger. "Honored ethereal, the facts speak for themselves. These humans represent chaos and disorder. Swift action now prevents greater problems later. The ethereal collective has observed many species take their first steps into galactic civilization," Vortham replied. "Some with great technology, some with great wisdom, some with great power. Rarely do we encounter a species that possesses what these humans demonstrate. And what exactly do they demonstrate besides primitive aggression?" Zethkar snapped. Vortham was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his words carried the weight of millions of years of experience. Adaptability. In our brief observations of human history, we have seen them survive ice ages that destroyed other species. We have watched them rebuild civilizations after catastrophic wars. We have observed them take technologies and improve upon them in ways their original creators never imagined. The chamber remained silent as the ancient being continued. "Ambassador Zethkar speaks of swift campaigns and easy victories, but the ethereal collective remembers other swift campaigns against supposedly primitive species. We remember the hunters of Rigel who possessed weapons beyond our understanding despite living in caves. We remember the builders of Tau Ceti whose structures still function after their creators vanished. We remember the Guardians whose automated defenses destroyed 3 different invasion fleets before anyone realized they had been extinct for 1,000 years. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Vortham was defending humanity, but his words painted a picture of galactic history filled with dangerous surprises. Most relevantly, the ethereal continued, we remember the War of Expansion when 6 allied species decided to eliminate what they called primitive threats before they could develop. That war lasted 300 years and ended with 4 of those species extinct and 2 reduced to single-planet colonies. The galaxy has never fully recovered from the chaos that followed. Zethkar stepped forward aggressively. The ethereal collective grows cautious in its old age. These humans have no such hidden weapons or ancient guardians. They are simply another young species that needs to learn proper respect for their betters. Perhaps, Vortham replied. But any species foolish enough to attack these humans will learn why we ethereals have survived 10 million years by choosing our battles wisely. Some fights appear easy until you discover what you are truly fighting. The warning hung in the air like a threat. Around the chamber, delegates began talking among themselves again, but the mood had changed. What had seemed like an easy decision was now complicated by the possibility of unknown consequences. Jake looked at his companions and saw his own thoughts reflected in their faces. Earth had allies they never knew existed and enemies they were only beginning to understand. The question was whether the warning would be enough to prevent a war nobody wanted, but everyone seemed to be preparing for. 3 days after the initial council session, Jake Morrison found himself locked in a small room deep within Nexus Prime Station. The walls were made of the same black stone as the council chamber, but here they felt more like a prison than a meeting. place. A single light panel provided dim illumination, and the air recycling system made a constant humming noise that got on his nerves. Lisa sat across from him at the small metal table that served as their only furniture. Her blonde hair was messy now after days without proper facilities, and dark circles showed under her green eyes. Pete paced back and forth in the narrow space between the walls, his nervous energy having nowhere else to go. "They are calling us." "Guests," Lisa said with bitter humor in her voice. "Guests who cannot leave their rooms or contact anyone outside the station." Jake nodded grimly. After Vortham's warning, the council had voted to postpone any decision about Earth for 7 standard days. During that time, the human representatives were to remain on Nexus Prime for their own protection. What they really meant was that Jake and his crew were now hostages to prevent Earth from preparing for what seemed like an inevitable attack. "I have been monitoring the communication channels," Lisa continued, adjusting the small device she had hidden in her sleeve. "The hegemony is not waiting for the council vote. Zethkar has already started reaching out to other species privately." Pete stopped pacing and looked at them with worry written across his face. "What kind of other species are we talking about here?" Lisa consulted her hidden device again. "The Krell swarm has agreed to provide bioships, something called the Vorthan. Empire is sending crystal vessels. There are also the Nexari clans who apparently specialize in atmospheric combat." "How many ships total?" Jake asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. "Based on what I can intercept, the current count is over 2,000 vessels, with more being added daily. They are calling it the Purification Fleet." The name sent chills through all 3 humans. This was not just a military campaign, but what the aliens considered a cleaning operation to remove contamination from their galaxy. Jake stood up and walked to the small window that looked out into space. Beyond the protective shields of the station, he could see alien ships of all sizes and designs moving in formation. Some looked like mechanical constructs, while others appeared to be grown rather than built. All of them carried enough firepower to reduce Earth's cities to ash. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the underground command center that had been hastily built beneath the Rocky Mountains. Banks of computers and communication equipment filled the vast space, while hundreds of technicians worked at their stations. Large screens on the walls showed the positions of Earth's defensive fleet and the status of weapon systems around the planet. "Report," she said to the young officer who approached her station. Lieutenant Danny Clark consulted his tablet before responding. "All civilian evacuations are now 70% complete, Admiral. The major population centers are nearly empty, and people have been moved to the designated safe zones." Kate nodded but felt no satisfaction from the news. The safe zones were really just areas far enough from military targets that they might survive the initial bombardment. If the aliens decided to exterminate humanity completely, there would be no truly safe places on Earth. "What about the fleet status?" she asked. "All 37 ships are operational and in position. The Defiance and her escorts are holding station near the moon, while Captain Roy Thompson's fighter squadrons are distributed throughout the outer system. 37 ships against over 2,000. Kate had faced bad odds before during her military career, but never anything like this. Earth's ships were new and untested, while their enemies had technology developed over thousands of years. The only advantage humanity might have was that the aliens expected an easy victory. In his laboratory complex, Dr. Alex Carter worked frantically to understand the alien technology samples that Jake's crew had managed to collect during their first contact mission. The small fragments of alien hull material and components from their scanning equipment lay spread across examination tables, while multiple teams of scientists studied them with every instrument available. "Doctor, we are seeing something interesting. In the shield generator fragment," called out Dr. Jenny White from across the room. She was examining a piece of crystalline material under a powerful microscope. Alex hurried over to look at her findings. "What do you see?" "The crystal matrix that generates their defensive barriers operates on a specific frequency pattern. But," Look at this irregularity here. She pointed to a section of the crystal that seemed to pulse with different colored light. The pattern is not perfectly stable. There are gaps that cycle every few seconds. Gaps that what? Alex asked with growing excitement. Gaps that would let certain types of energy through if we could time it correctly. Their shields are incredibly strong, but they are not constant. There are moments of vulnerability. Alex felt his heart racing as he realized what this meant. How long are these vulnerability windows? Maybe 2 or 3 milliseconds every 10 seconds. Not long, but potentially enough for a precisely timed weapon strike to get through. It was not much of an advantage, but it was something. Alex immediately began calculating what kind of weapons modifications would be needed to exploit this weakness. The work would need to be done quickly and distributed to every human ship and defense platform. Back on Nexus Prime, Jake was awakened by the sound of his door opening quietly. He sat up expecting to see another guard, but instead found a figure in a hooded cloak standing in the doorway. The being was tall and thin with gray skin and large dark eyes that seemed too big for its head. "You must come quietly," the figure whispered in accented but understandable English. "There is not much time before the next guard patrol." Jake shook Lisa and Pete awake while keeping his eyes on the mysterious visitor. "Who are you?" he asked in a low voice. "I am Keeper Joran of the Archive Worlds. My people voted against supporting the invasion, but we cannot openly oppose it without risking retaliation. However, we can help you escape so that you may warn your planet." "Why would you help us?" Lisa asked suspiciously. "Because the Archive Worlds have seen what happens when entire civilizations are destroyed for political reasons. We have records of species that were eliminated not because they were dangerous, but because they were inconvenient. Your people deserve the chance to defend themselves." Pete was already gathering their few possessions while Jake considered their options. Staying on the station meant watching helplessly while Earth was attacked. Escaping meant they could at least try to warn their people and maybe help with the defense. "How do we get off the station?" Jake asked. "I have access to a small courier vessel in Docking Bay 7. It is fast enough to reach Earth before the main fleet arrives, but we must leave now. The hegemony has moved up their timeline, and the invasion begins in 5 standard days." Jake felt his blood turn cold. Earth had even less time than they thought to prepare. He looked at his companions and saw the same determination in their faces that he felt in his heart. They had to try. "Lead the way," he said. The group moved quietly through the dark corridors of Nexus Prime while the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Behind them, the invasion fleet continued to grow as more species joined what they believed would be an easy victory. Ahead lay a desperate race against time to save a world that did not yet know it was about to become a battlefield. The galaxy was about to discover that underestimating humanity was the most dangerous mistake they could make. The alien invasion fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of angry insects. Over 3,000 ships of different sizes and designs spread across space in a formation that stretched for millions of kilometers. The largest vessels were the size of small cities, while the smallest fighters moved in clouds of hundreds around their carrier ships. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the enemy fleet appear on her command screens from the Bridge of the Defiance. The human flagship was positioned near Earth's moon, along with 12 other vessels that represented half of humanity's entire space navy. Her jaw was set in a hard line as she counted the overwhelming numbers they faced. "Communications officer, patch me through to all ships and defense platforms," she ordered. "Channel open, Admiral," came the quick reply. Kate took a deep breath before speaking into her headset. "All units, this is Admiral Sullivan. Today we face an enemy that believes we are primitive and weak. They think our world is easy prey, and our people are not worth their respect. They are about to learn how wrong they can be. Remember that every second we keep them busy gives our people on the ground more time to reach safety. Hold the line and make them pay for every meter of space." they take. Captain Roy Thompson led the first wave of human fighters from his position near Mars. His squadron of 20 small but fast ships accelerated toward the alien fleet at maximum speed. The fighters were equipped with the new weapons Dr. Carter's team had developed based on their analysis of alien shield technology. "All wings, this is Thunder Leader," Roy announced over the combat channel. "Remember, the timing has to be perfect. Wait for the shield fluctuation cycle, then hit them with everything we have. We get one shot at this, so make it count." The alien fleet commander Zethkar stood on the bridge of his massive dreadnought and surveyed the pathetic human response with satisfaction. A few dozen small ships and some orbital platforms were all that stood between his forces and total victory over the primitive world below. "Begin the attack," he commanded. "Focus fire on their largest vessels first. Once we destroy their military capacity, the planet will surrender quickly." The first exchange of fire lit up space like a deadly fireworks display. Alien plasma beams and energy missiles streaked toward human positions, while return fire from Earth's ships created brilliant flashes against enemy shields. The initial results looked exactly as Zethkar had predicted, with several human vessels taking heavy damage from the opening salvos. But then something unexpected happened. Roy Thompson's fighters reached optimal range and began their attack runs against the alien capital ships. Instead of the continuous fire that most species used, the human pilots waited for precise moments before releasing their weapons. The timing had to be perfect to hit the brief gaps in alien shield systems that Dr. Carter had discovered. The first fighter squadron scored direct hits on a Krell bioship that was nearly a kilometer long. The alien vessel shuddered as human missiles punched through its defensive barriers and exploded against its hull. Seconds later, 2 more alien ships suffered similar damage as human pilots exploited the shield weakness with deadly accuracy. Zethkar stared at his tactical display in confusion. "How are their primitive weapons penetrating our shields?" he demanded. His tactical officer was equally puzzled. "Unknown, sir. Our defensive systems show no malfunctions, but their missiles are somehow getting through during brief moments when the shield cycle." Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Nick Parker was leading a group of modified mining ships on a dangerous mission behind enemy lines. While the main battle raged near the moon, his small fleet had used the asteroid belt for cover to approach the alien supply vessels that supported the invasion force. "Target the fuel tankers first," Nick ordered his pilots. "Without supplies, their big ships become floating targets." The mining ships had been hastily converted for combat with the addition of missile launchers and basic armor plating. They were not designed for military action, but their crews knew the outer solar system better than any alien navigator. This knowledge let them move through areas that the invaders considered empty space, but were actually filled with debris and hidden dangers. Nick's first target was a massive alien supply ship that carried fuel and ammunition for the invasion fleet. The vessel was lightly defended because it was supposed to be far from any combat zone. The mining ship crews used cutting beams originally designed for asteroid processing to slice through the supply ship's hull in ways that alien engineers had never anticipated. The explosion that followed was visible even from Earth, as thousands of tons of alien fuel ignited in a chain reaction that destroyed the supply vessel and damaged 3 nearby ships. Similar attacks throughout the outer system began to disrupt the alien logistics network that kept their massive fleet operational. Dr. Carter worked frantically in his underground laboratory as reports from the battle reached Earth's command center. The shield weakness his team had discovered was working, but the aliens were already starting to adapt their defensive frequencies to compensate for the human attacks. "We need something more," he told his assistant, Dr. Jenny White, as they watched the tactical displays. "The shield vulnerability bought us some time, but they are learning to counter it." Jenny was examining data from the alien ship fragments when she made another discovery. "Alex, look at this. The alien computer systems use a different kind of logic processing than our machines. Their networks are designed to prevent chaos and maintain order at all costs." "What does that mean for us?" Alex asked. It means they might be vulnerable to the kind of random, unpredictable attacks that human computer viruses use. Their systems are not designed to handle true chaos. Alex felt excitement building as he understood what she was suggesting. You mean we could infect their fleet with computer viruses? Not just any viruses. We need to create digital chaos that their ordered minds cannot comprehend or defend against. Something so random and illogical that their systems break down trying to process it. The battle continued to rage across the solar system as both sides adapted their tactics to counter enemy strengths. What the aliens had expected to be a quick, overwhelming victory was turning into a drawn-out fight that cost them ships and resources they had not planned to lose. Captain Jake Morrison's stolen courier ship finally reached Earth's outer detection grid after days of desperate flight from Nexus Prime. His arrival brought critical intelligence about alien fleet compositions and battle tactics that Admiral Sullivan immediately distributed to all human forces. The hegemony expected this to be over in hours, Jake reported to the command center. They are not prepared for extended combat and their supply lines are already stretched thin. If we can keep the pressure on them, they might be forced to withdraw. Kate. Sullivan studied the tactical situation with new hope. The battle was far from over, but humanity was proving that they were not the easy prey the aliens had expected. Every ship they destroyed and every hour they survived made their enemies more desperate and more likely to make mistakes. The real test was yet to come as both sides prepared for the next phase of a war that was already changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Earth's defenders had shown they could hurt their enemies, but the question remained whether they could actually win against such overwhelming odds. In space, the burning wrecks of both human and alien ships drifted slowly between the planets while survivors on both sides prepared for the next exchange of fire. The galaxy was learning that humanity would not go quietly into extinction, and that underestimating Earth's defenders was a fatal mistake that would cost the invaders far more than they had ever imagined possible. The battle for Earth's solar system had been raging for 3 days when the first major crack appeared in the alien coalition. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched from the Defiance's bridge as Krell bioships began breaking away from the main invasion fleet. The organic vessels that looked more like giant insects than spacecraft were retreating toward the outer system at maximum speed. Communications intercept from the alien fleet, reported Lieutenant Danny Clark. The Krell are claiming their ships are being infected with some kind of technological plague and they refuse to continue the assault. Kate allowed herself a small smile. Dr. Carter's computer virus attack had worked better than anyone had hoped. The digital chaos that his team had unleashed on the alien networks was spreading through their fleet like wildfire. The Krell bioships with their organic computer systems were especially vulnerable to the random, unpredictable code that human programmers had created. Captain Betty Lewis was leading her squadron of converted civilian vessels in what military historians would later call the most desperate gambit of the entire war. Her ships had been cargo haulers and passenger transports just days earlier, but now they carried enough explosives to level a mountain. The plan was simple in concept, but terrifying in execution. "All ships, this is Betty," she announced over the combat channel. "Remember, we only get one chance at this. Pick your targets and commit fully. There is no backing down once we start. Our attack runs." Her target was the alien mothership at the center of the enemy formation. The massive vessel was over 10 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that could destroy entire cities. But it also carried the command staff for the entire invasion, and its destruction would throw the alien fleet into chaos. The converted civilian ships accelerated toward the mothership at ramming speed. Their hulls had been stripped of everything, except life support and the largest explosive charges that human engineers could build. The crews knew they were flying suicide missions, but they also knew that their sacrifice might save their planet. Zeth Carr watched the approaching human ships with growing alarm. "What are those vessels doing?" he demanded from his bridge. "Are they trying to ram us?" His tactical officer was scanning the human ships with every sensor available. "Sir, I am detecting massive explosive signatures aboard those vessels. They appear to be improvised kinetic weapons." "Destroy them immediately," Zethkar ordered. "All weapons focus fire on those approaching ships." The space around Betty's squadron erupted with alien weapons fire as every ship in the enemy fleet tried to stop the human attack. One by one, the converted civilian vessels were blown apart by the concentrated barrage, but their sacrifice was not in vain. The explosions and debris created a screen that hid the remaining ships until they were too close to stop. Betty's own ship took a direct hit that destroyed her port engine and killed half her crew, but she kept the vessel on course toward the alien mothership. "This is for Earth, you bastards!" she shouted into her radio as her ship struck the enemy vessel's hull at nearly light speed. The explosion was visible from Mars as the converted cargo ship detonated against the alien mothership's shields. The massive enemy vessel shuddered and began to list to one side as secondary explosions rippled through its hull. Two more human ships followed Betty's example and struck the mothership at different points along its length. On Earth's surface ground, Commander Tony Mitchell was coordinating the planetary defense systems that had been hastily constructed over the past week. Massive railguns hidden in mountain ranges targeted any alien ships that came within range, while missile batteries launched continuous barrages at enemy landing craft. Sector 7 is reporting alien ground troops attempting to land near the old Chicago ruins, reported one of his communications officers. Tony studied the tactical display that showed alien positions across the planet. The invaders were trying to establish footholds in multiple locations, but Earth's defenders were making them pay heavily for every meter of ground they took. "Activate the Chicago defense grid," Tony ordered. "Show them what happens when they try to invade our world." Hidden beneath the abandoned city were automated defense systems that had been built using a combination of human engineering and reverse-engineered alien technology. When the grid came online, it turned the entire urban area into a killing field that no organic being could survive. The alien ground forces found themselves facing weapons that rose from the rubble of destroyed buildings and streets that became corridors of death. Human tactical thinking had turned Earth's own geography into a weapon that the invaders could not understand or counter. Dr. Carter was in his laboratory when the breakthrough came that would change the course of the entire war. His team had been working around the clock to analyze alien technology and find new weaknesses to exploit. The latest discovery was beyond anything they had imagined possible. "Alex, you need to see this immediately," called Dr. Jenny White from across the room. She was staring at a display screen with an expression of amazement and terror. "What did you find?" Alex asked as he hurried over to look at her data. "The alien ships are not just connected by communication networks," Jenny explained. "Their entire fleet operates as one giant distributed computer system. Every ship shares processing power and tactical information in real time." Alex felt his heart racing as he understood the implications. "You mean, if we could access their main network, we could potentially control their entire fleet? More than that, we could turn their own ships against each other. The virus we already introduced has given us partial access to their systems. With the right modifications, we could make them think their own vessels are enemy targets." The plan that Alex and Jenny developed was so audacious that Admiral Sullivan initially refused to authorize it. The risk of failure was enormous, and success would require human computer specialists to directly interface with alien networks using technology that was barely understood. "If this goes wrong, we could lose what little advantage we have gained," Kate warned during the emergency planning session. "If we do nothing, we lose anyway," Alex replied. "The alien fleet is still 3 times larger than our forces even after all our victories. This virus attack might be our only chance to level the odds." Jake Morrison had barely slept since returning to Earth, but he volunteered to pilot the special mission that would deliver the enhanced virus directly to the alien command ship. His stolen courier vessel had the best chance of getting close enough. To establish a direct network connection. The timing has to be perfect, Alex explained as Jake prepared for launch. You will have maybe 30 seconds to upload the virus before their security systems detect the intrusion and cut the connection. 30 seconds to save the world, Jake said with grim humor. No pressure at all. As Jake's ship launched toward the enemy fleet, the battle reached its most critical point. Human forces were holding their own, but they were running out of ships and ammunition, while the aliens still had reserves to draw upon. The enhanced virus attack represented humanity's last desperate gamble to turn the tide of a war that had already cost both sides more than anyone had expected. In the depths of space, the burning wrecks of destroyed vessels from both fleets drifted slowly between the planets, while survivors prepared for what might be the final exchange of the entire conflict. Earth's defenders had proven they would not surrender, but the question remained whether courage and determination would be enough to overcome the massive technological advantage their enemies still possessed. The galaxy was about to witness either humanity's greatest triumph or its final defeat as the war for Earth's survival entered its most dangerous phase. Jake Morrison's stolen courier ship approached the damaged alien mothership through a field of burning debris that had once been proud vessels from both fleets. His hands were steady on the controls, despite knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether humanity survived or joined the countless extinct species that littered galactic history. Approaching target range, he reported to Admiral Sullivan over the secure channel. Beginning upload sequence now. Behind him, Lisa Hayes worked frantically at the modified communication array that Dr. Carter's team had installed in their ship. The alien network connection had to be perfect, or the enhanced virus would fail to penetrate their security systems before they detected the intrusion. Connection established, Lisa announced with tension clear in her voice. We have maybe 20 seconds before they realize what we are doing. The enhanced virus flowed through the network connection like digital poison, spreading through the alien fleet's shared computer systems. Unlike the previous attack that had caused chaos and confusion, this new program was designed with a specific purpose. It would make the alien ships identify each other as enemy targets and turn their own weapons against their allies. Aboard the alien mothership, Zethkar was coordinating the final assault that would break Earth's remaining defenses when every screen on his bridge suddenly flashed red with warning signals. His tactical officer stared at the displays in growing horror as the fleet's targeting systems began identifying friendly vessels as hostile contacts. Sir, our own ships are locking weapons on each other, the officer reported in panic. The targeting. Computers are showing all fleet vessels as enemy contacts. Override the system manually, Zethkar ordered, but it was already too late. Across the invasion fleet, alien ships began firing on their own allies as the virus convinced their targeting. Computers that every other vessel was an Earth defender. The Vorthan crystal ships launched their energy beams at Krell bioships, while Nexari fighters strafed their own carriers. The perfectly coordinated invasion force dissolved into chaos as 3,000 ships turned their weapons on each other. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the alien fleet tear itself apart from the bridge of the Defiance and felt a mixture of relief and amazement. All human vessels concentrate fire on any alien ship that is not engaged with other enemy vessels, she ordered. Do not let any of them escape to regroup. The battle that had seemed impossible for humanity to win suddenly turned into a rout, as the alien fleet destroyed itself more effectively than Earth's defenders ever could have managed. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant flashes of light as the virus continued to spread through their networks and turn their own technology against them. Captain Roy Thompson led his surviving fighters in attacks against the few alien vessels that had managed to isolate their computer systems before the virus reached them. These ships were fighting desperately to escape the solar system and warn other species about humanity's unexpected capabilities. Do not let any of them get away, Roy ordered his pilots. If word gets back to the galaxy about what happened here, we might face an even larger invasion fleet. The final phase of the battle lasted only 2 hours as the remnants of the great Invasion force either destroyed each other or fell to human weapons. When the last alien ship finally exploded near Jupiter's orbit, the solar system fell silent, except for the rescue beacons of survivors from both sides. Ground Commander Tony Mitchell coordinated the cleanup operations on Earth's surface where alien landing parties had been stranded when their support ships were destroyed. Most of the invaders surrendered quickly when they realized their situation was hopeless. The few who continued fighting were eliminated by human forces that had learned alien tactics during the week-long battle. Dr. Carter stood in his laboratory surrounded by alien technology samples and computer cores recovered from destroyed enemy ships. The victory had given humanity access to thousands of years of advanced science and engineering that would accelerate human development by centuries. "We need to understand everything we can about their technology," he told his team. "This invasion was just the beginning. There are other species out there who will want to test us once they learn what happened here." On Nexus Prime Station, Delegate Vortham of the Ethereal Collective received the first reports of the invasion's failure with a mixture of satisfaction and concern. He had warned the Council that attacking humanity was dangerous, but even he had not expected such a complete reversal of fortune. "The humans have exceeded our most optimistic projections," he reported to his own government through secure channels. "They have not only survived first contact with galactic civilization, but demonstrated capabilities that will reshape the balance of power among all species." 3 months after the battle, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar embassy ship as it approached Nexus Prime. He had been promoted to captain and given command of Earth's new diplomatic mission to the galactic community. The war had ended, but now came the even more difficult task of securing humanity's place among the stars. Admiral Sullivan had remained on Earth to oversee the reconstruction of damaged cities and the integration of alien technology into human society. The cost of victory had been enormous, with millions dead and entire regions devastated by the fighting. But humanity had survived and proven that they belonged among the star-faring civilizations. President William Barnes addressed the United Nations in what historians would later call the most important speech in human history. "The galaxy tried to destroy us because they feared what we might become," he said to the assembled representatives of Earth's nations. "We have shown them that their fears were justified. Humanity will not be bullied or intimidated by those who think technology makes them superior to courage and determination." The speech was broadcast to every human settlement and recorded for transmission to other species throughout the galaxy. Earth's message was clear and simple. Humanity had earned its place among the stars through blood and sacrifice and would defend that place against any threat. Captain Jake Morrison's diplomatic mission to Nexus Prime was met by representatives of dozens of species who wanted to establish peaceful relations with the new galactic power. The Ethereal Collective offered alliance and friendship, while other civilizations sought trade agreements and technology exchanges. But there were also darker messages from species that viewed humanity's victory as a threat to their own dominance. The galaxy was a dangerous place, filled with ancient rivalries and competing interests. Earth's defenders had won their first war, but greater challenges lay ahead. Dr. Carter's final report on the alien technology captured during the invasion revealed capabilities that would revolutionize human science within a generation. Faster-than-light communication, advanced materials, energy weapons, and medical technologies that could extend human lifespans by centuries. The invasion had been intended to destroy human civilization, but instead had given humanity the tools to become a major galactic power. The war was over, but the real adventure was just beginning as humanity prepared to take its place among the stars. Earth's children would spread across the galaxy, carrying with them the lessons learned during those desperate days when the survival of their species hung in the balance. They would never again be underestimated, and they would never forget that sometimes the greatest victories come from the most desperate situations. The galaxy had tried to eliminate humanity as a threat, but instead had created exactly what they feared most: a species with advanced technology, proven courage, and the determination to defend their freedom against any enemy, no matter how powerful they might appear.